The Clinton-Biden double standard is now on full display, and a lot of people on the left are now screaming that anybody who asks about Hillary Clinton or Joe Biden or any of the other criminals in the DOJ or the FBI or in the State Department, if we ask about them, that's all just whataboutism. It's just us saying, oh, what about this and what about this? And it's just trying to deflect from the real criminal, which is Donald Trump. And we're not allowed to ask about any other prosecutions or explain why this is a big problem, because if you have double standards in the law, well, then you don't really have equal protection of the law, right? You've got certain people who are prosecuted and others are not. You don't really have any notice about what the law is. If those people can drive at 0.15 over the limit, but these other people can't, it's 0.08. And or if you only enforce certain laws that are at certain limits, and then you change the standards, but you don't tell the people about that, you've got notice problems and constitutional problems, and you've got all sorts of political problems as well, which is why we just don't prosecute people in these positions as a general rule, but now we do. Now, I wanted to go back down this memory lane because this is James Comey. He came out and gave us a few minutes on Hillary Clinton and what they found as a result of their investigation. And this is being now dragged back up because Trump allegedly did stuff that the media tells us is worse than this. But I'm not so sure about that. Let's remind ourselves what happened with Hill.
Now let me tell you what we found. Although we did not find clear evidence that Secretary Clinton or her colleagues intended to violate laws governing the handling of classified information.
How do you unintentionally create an email server? It is kind of a difficult thing to do unintentionally. I can understand packing very quickly and gobbling up a classified document in a stack of papers and putting it in a box and moving the box. That I can understand intentionality. But setting up an email server and connecting your phone to your fake email and sending emails from that fake email and creating MX records in your DNS and all the things, like that's a ton of work. The mere fact that you've done the thing is intention. Somebody had to direct that to happen. That's intentionality, if you've ever seen it.
Intended to violate laws governing the handling of classified information.
They just
there
created
is
a
evidence
server.
that they were extremely careless in their handling of very sensitive, highly classified information. For example, 7 email chains concern matters that were classified at the top secret special access program at the time they were sent and received.
Arrest her.
Those chains involve Secretary Clinton both sending emails about those matters and receiving emails about those same matters.
Wow. So she actually sent emails about the classified documents. Wow. And they're having a meltdown over Trump apparently flashing a document to some reporter in the room. Remember?
Is evidence to support a conclusion that any reasonable person in Secretary Clinton's position or in the position of those with whom she was corresponding about those matters should have known that an unclassified system was no place for that conversation. In addition to this highly sensitive information, we also found information that was properly classified as secret by the U.S. intelligence community at the time it was discussed on email. That is, excluding any later up-classified emails. None of these emails should have been on any kind of unclassified system.
No, of course not.
But their presence is especially concerning because all of these emails were housed on unclassified personal servers.
Wow.
Not even supported by full-time security staff.
Wow.
Like those found at agencies and departments of the United States government, or even with a commercial email service like Gmail.
Yeah, Gmail would be more secure than Hillary's.
I think it's also important to say something about the marking of classified information. Only a very small number of the emails here containing classified information bore markings that indicated the presence of classified information.
Okay, because that was Hillary's excuse. Well, they weren't marked classified, so I didn't know. Listen.
But even if information is not marked classified in an email, participants who know or should know that the subject matter is classified are still obligated to protect it. And while not the focus of our investigation, we also developed evidence that the security culture of the State Department, in general, and with respect to the use of unclassified systems in particular, was generally lacking in the kind of care for classified information that's found elsewhere in the U.S. government. With respect to potential computer intrusion by hostile actors, we did not find direct evidence that Secretary Clinton's personal email domain, in its various configurations since 2009, was hacked successfully. But given the nature of the system and of the actors potentially involved, we assess we would be unlikely to see such direct evidence.
Oh, well, that sucks.
We do assess that hostile actors gained access to the private commercial email accounts of people with whom Secretary Clinton was in regular contact from her personal account.
In this case, Donald Trump has been getting excoriated for the possibility that somebody may have accessed it. You know, anybody at Mar-a-Lago could have walked in there and just seen it, and we don't know if anybody actually did or not. Maybe there's further allegations to come on that. I don't know. But here, Hillary actually did send stuff to other people who did actually access it. And he says she was extremely careless, which was a phrase that he just modified from the criminal law, which was gross negligence. Basically, he took the law and he metamorphized it into this new phrase, which was extremely careless, which didn't support the charges. Listen.
We also assess that Secretary Clinton's use of a personal email domain was both known by a large number of people and readily apparent. She also used her personal email extensively while outside the United States, including sending and receiving work-related emails in the territory of sophisticated adversaries.
So she's using their servers. She's sending emails on their servers. So it's going through their Wi-Fi. She's like, you know, in Xi Jinping's office, sitting there. And she's like, hey, Xi, you guys have Wi-Fi here? Like, I get terrible service here. And she's like, yes, we do. We do have Wi-Fi. It's called Definitely Secure Network. Just open your phone. She goes, oh, definitely secure. Great. Perfect. Oh, wow. No password even. Yeah. She says, yeah, this is China. You can trust our networks. So she goes on there and she starts emailing about nuclear silos or whatever. And Xi Jinping's like, perfect. He's just gobbling it all up because she's on Definitely Secure China. So it's just nuts. And there's no prosecutions because...
Given that combination of factors, we assess it is possible that hostile actors gained access to Secretary Clinton's personal email account. So that's what we found.
Yeah.
Finally,
Now, he goes on to say, if you listen to the rest of it, we already know how this story ends. He says, but no reasonable prosecutor would bring charges here. Yeah, all of that. No reasonable prosecutor would bring charges. And you might give him the benefit of the doubt on that. Why? Because over the last 200 plus years of American history, prosecutors haven't brought charges against presidential candidates. At this moment in time, remember, this was July 2016. Hillary was a candidate at the time, and she was favored to win. In fact, this press conference, many on her side, including her, I think blame for her maybe even losing this. This was a giant excuse. She could have been charged as a result of this, and Trump's people maybe should have charged her. Obviously, they did not. And I would guess that the Justice Department under Trump had a conversation and said, yeah, Trump, I know you said during the election, lock her up and all this stuff. And Trump maybe went in there and said, yeah, lock her up. But then the Justice Department came back and said, look, you can't do that. Here's why. It's going to shatter this and that and the other thing. And they decided against it. But now all the stops are out. Now the Democrats just know this is it. They've got Joe Biden, who can barely speak a sentence, and Donald Trump is storming back into front and center. And so they've got to pull out all the stops. Here's another clip from Trey Gowdy when Comey was in front of Congress.
Good morning, Director Comey. Secretary Clinton said she never sent or received any classified information over her private email. Was that true?
Our investigation found that there was classified information sent.
So it was not true?
Right. That's what I said.
Okay. Well, I'm looking for a little shorter answer so you and I are not here quite as long. Secretary Clinton said there was nothing marked classified on her emails either sent or received. Was that true?
That's not true. There were a small number of portion markings on, I think, 3 of the documents.
Secretary Clinton said, I did not email any classified material to anyone on my email. There is no classified material. Was that true?
There was classified material emailed.
Secretary Clinton said she used just one device. Was that true?
She used multiple devices during the 4 years of her term as Secretary of State.
Secretary Clinton said all work-related emails were returned to the State Department. Was that true?
No, we found work-related emails, thousands, that were not returned.
Secretary Clinton said neither she nor anyone else deleted work-related emails from her personal account. Was that true?
That's a harder one to answer. We found traces of work-related emails on devices or in Slack space, whether they were deleted or whether when a server was changed out, something happened to them. There's no doubt that there were work-related emails that were removed electronically from the email system.
Secretary Clinton said her lawyers read every one of the emails and were overly inclusive. Did her lawyers read the email content individually?
No.
Well, in the interest of time and because I have a plain...
Wait a minute. So Hillary Clinton's lawyers lied? Did they breach Hillary Clinton's attorney-client privilege with her lawyers? Her lawyers said they did something. FBI says no. So it sounds like Hillary and her lawyers were colluding to obstruct justice, which would be a crime, which means the attorney-client privilege gets breached just like Trump's got breached, right? That's fair because we live in a society where no one is above the law, as they keep telling us.
To catch tomorrow afternoon, I'm not going to go through any more of the false statements, but I am going to ask you to put on your old hat. False exculpatory statements, they are used for what?
Well, either for a substantive prosecution or for evidence of intent in a criminal prosecution.
Exactly. Intent and consciousness of guilt, right? Is that right?
Right.
Consciousness of guilt and intent. In your old job, you would prove intent, as you just referenced, by showing the jury evidence of a complex scheme that was designed for the very purpose of concealing the public record. And you would be arguing, in addition to concealment, the destruction that you and I just talked about, or certainly the failure to preserve. You would argue all of that under the heading of content. You would also be arguing the pervasiveness of the scheme, when it started, when it ended, and the number of emails, whether they were originally classified or upclassified. You would argue all of that under the heading of intent. You would also probably, under common scheme or plan, argue the...
All right, so he's going to get into all the conspiracy stuff and give Comey a lecture. But you hear that Comey is acknowledging Hillary Clinton's a liar. Her attorneys are liars. They deleted emails. They covered a bunch of stuff up. And they even destroyed emails with hammers and bleach bit, hard drives, and other devices in the State Department to cover this crap up. And nobody got prosecuted. Here it is being fact-checked in real time on CNN.
They destroyed BlackBerries with hammers in the State Department. That's not what one the president said.
Actually,
and
Evan,
hold on.
Can you fact check that?
Hang
on, Evan Perez. Hammers, fact check that for me, please, on the fly.
Yes, they did, Brooke.
As
you mentioned, there were 13 devices, mobile devices, and 5 iPads that the FBI said that, in some way were used with her private email server, and they did, in some cases, just destroy them with hammers when they were done using them.
That's a pretty good way of destroying.
She forgot her training.
No, it's not. Device.
That is absolutely not following the rules and regulations of the State Department. You know it. Your 52 reasons just went down to 1. No reasons left. Listen, here's the bottom line here. This is somebody who's disqualified from becoming president. She said that she didn't remember her training because of her concussion.
Boris,
does she still not remember things?
Enough with your grandstanding.
These are all...
He got fact check in real time. Look at her face. She's like, oh no. Watch the face. Okay. Oh, there it is. You can almost feel the pain right there. So amazing. Yeah. Now, okay, so Hillary, I don't know, did Trump throw any documents in the shredder? Maybe he should have thrown... Oh, that's what he should have done. Donald Trump should have got a hammer and smashed all the classified documents to bits. That would have helped, wouldn't it? Yeah. Well, meanwhile, you've got guys like Andy McCabe. All right, Andy McCabe used to work at the FBI, and he was fired and then reinstated he was fired by one DOJ and then got bought back by another DOJ, which was Biden's DOJ. They basically settled with him. He sued them. They settled. And they said, you did a great job. Should have been fired in the first place. So he just had to wait out the Trump administration, and then he got brought back. But very briefly, Andy McCabe had some difficulties in his professional career. He was ultimately fired. Here's what happened. Wall Street Journal published an article about the investigation of Hillary's server. Now, they suggested that McCabe had a conflict of interest because his wife made donations, or he made donations to his wife's campaign as a Democrat for the Senate, right? So big Democrat, married to a white, his wife's a Democrat. She ran for the state Senate. Wall Street Journal emailed an FBI official following up on McCabe's involvement in the investigation. McCabe decided that the New York FBI office would continue investigating. January, there was a big concern about whether McCabe actually recused himself from this. An investigation into different leaks found that this guy basically lied to the FBI. Okay, he leaked some stuff. He lied about it. Trump's FBI and DOJ terminated him. CNN hired the guy. Here's McCarthy bringing it to everybody's attention. Here's what he said.
The idea of equal justice is not playing out here. And so that's a real concern to all Americans. So as policymaker, elected officials, we want to make sure it's equal justice for all. And we want to look at it as weaponization. Now, you're with CNN, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about this even further, because when somebody weaponizes government and they actually get removed from government, let's take Andrew McCabe, okay, former deputy.
Let me answer
the question.
This is a different set of circumstances, right? I mean, the former president is accused of misleading law enforcement, of a conspiracy of obstructing justice. That's a different set of facts. Are you prepared to defend him as the former president, and what other actions will the House take?
Okay, so just very quickly on this, Hillary Clinton, if we want to talk about double standards, how is that not obstruction of justice to destroy hard drives and to delete evidence when it's subject to investigation? I mean, how is that not a double standard right there? CNN is having a difficult time remembering that.
The House Judiciary Committee in terms of funding.
Are you prepared to defend your network, CNN?
I'm
answering your question. You could ask me any question you want, but I'm entitled to answer the question, okay? You can't put words in my mouth. Even though your network can hire Andrew McCabe, who was fired from the FBI for leaking classified documents. Did you remove him from your network? No, you continue to put him on to give judgment against President Trump.
Speaker.
You also hire Clapper. Clapper has come out publicly.
Mr. Speaker,
and
what steps is the House going to take in terms of, is there any effort to defund the FBI, any effort to defund the Department of Justice after what you've seen over the last several days?
So your network hires Clapper, who literally lied to the American public, one of 51 other individuals that had briefings and used it politically to tell the American public that a laptop was Russia collusion, even though it had all this information about the Biden administration. Are you prepared to get rid of those people from your network? Because my concern as a policymaker is that when you weaponize government and now you're weaponizing networks, that is wrong. So we will take all of our power to make sure that the legal system in America gets the blinders back on and people are treated fairly. I have a real problem that your network actually pays people who did classified information and then lied to the American public to try to influence a presidential election, and then you put them on your network to give an opinion about a president. And I'm answering your
But you're not answering
very clearly, because what your network has done has weaponized at the same time. I think equal justice is important for all.
Yes. There you go. So she really wants to turn this into a story only about Trump, when it's not just only about Trump. It's about the weaponization of the government against political enemies. And we talked about this on our members only stream this morning, specifically about equal standards, right? And if Hillary Clinton had gotten prosecuted, if Joe Biden was also facing an indictment from his special counsel, if Mike Pence also got charged, we're all like, okay, look, these documents are very, very classified. It's time to take it seriously. Everybody's getting charged. All right. It's like, okay, well, I guess that's the new deal. I mean, everybody's getting charged here. All these, I'd actually be okay with that. It's like all of these bureaucrats would finally have some repercussions for something, it'd be like a nice turn of events. But that's not what's happening. Here, Hillary's doing something that is dramatically worse, something that has severe intentionality behind it, which is setting up a server for her own use, specifically bypassing the safeguards that are with her position in order to do Lord knows what. And then when she gets caught, she deletes all the evidence. I mean, that's orders of magnitude worse than Trump. And she also was running for president at the time that all this was going on. So the double standards here are massive. And Kevin McCarthy does a good job with this CNN person. And CNN is always telling us how serious this is and what a catastrophe. And these are America's most top secrets and blah, 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 when they hire the people who leak classified information on their own network. So don't tell us that you care about this stuff and the sanctity of classification. It's so honorable when you bring on people who are the biggest, most egregious offenders of classification protocol, like Andy McCabe. So they are continuing to twist themselves into a pretzel. But fortunately, some Republicans are speaking out. One of them is Lindsey Graham. And Lindsey Graham is on with George Stephanopoulos. Remember, George used to work with Hillary Clinton. And so Lindsey Graham gets up on here with George Stephanopoulos, and here's how this interview goes.
Line who's endorsed Donald Trump for president in 2024. Senator Graham, thank you for joining us this morning. Donald Trump has said repeatedly that he did nothing wrong. Do you believe that?
Well, here's what I believe. We live in an America where if you're the Democratic candidate for president, Hillary Clinton, Secretary of State, you can set up a private server in your basement to conduct government business. And when an investigation is had about your activity. No, let me finish.
But you didn't answer the question.
That was ridiculous. Well, yeah, I'm trying to answer the question from a Republican point of view. That may not be acceptable on this show. Yes, I don't like what President Trump did in certain aspects. I don't like that Joe Biden had classified information on the garage. I don't like that Mike Pence carelessly took classified information. I don't like any of that. But what I don't like is a system in America where the Secretary of State, who's a Democratic candidate for president,
Hillary,
has people take a hammer to social media devices and break them apart.
Fact check true.
Apply bleach bit to a hard drive to erase emails. Allow classified information to get on a felon's computer, Anthony Weiner. You haven't even mentioned that. Most Republicans believe we live in a country where Hillary Clinton did very similar things and nothing happened to her. President Trump will have his day in court, but espionage charges are absolutely ridiculous. Whether you like Trump or not, he did not commit espionage. He did not disseminate, leak, or provide information to a foreign power or to a news organization to damage this country. He is not a spy. He's overcharged. Did he do things wrong? Yes, he may have. He will be tried about that. But Hillary Clinton wasn't. Your old boss committed perjury in a civil lawsuit, lost his law license, obstructed justice in a dozen ways, and he didn't get prosecuted.
No. And he was impeached. Senator,
he was impeached. So was Trump. You're having a tough time over there, George.
He was impeached, but he wasn't prosecuted.
You've made your point, but you also said something that I believe is not true based on what's in the indictment.
What?
You said that he did not disseminate any of this information. In fact, there's an audio tape in the indictment where he's talking about the secret information, saying he knows it's secret, knows it's not declassified.
Okay, let's talk about that. I don't know what happened. I haven't heard the audio.
That's true. We haven't seen the transcripts. And would it be shocking to anybody if the transcripts weren't exactly accurate? Would it be shocking if Trump was literally joking around? Or, as I said last week when we were going through the indictment, the document's status could be technically declassified, but it could have a classification marking on it. And Trump is being Trump. Trump jokes all the time. But again, the transcript doesn't in it of itself, or the allegation in it of itself doesn't comport to a violation of the law. My understanding is they don't even have that document that's been referenced there. And again, going back to George's prior question, or the double standard that exists, Hillary also was disseminating this stuff, sending emails on non-secure servers in foreign territory using their Wi-Fi networks. So talk about dissemination. It's a whole different category. Trump allegedly is like flashing a document, which again, I don't encourage or endorse. It's like, it's Trump. It's very Trump, and Trump is going to be Trump, and Trump's going to Trump it up. But it's a different caliber of offense.
Knows it's not declassified.
So let's talk about that. I don't know what happened. I haven't heard the audio, but look at who's been charged under Espionage Act. Julian Assange, Edward Snowden, Chelsea Manning. People who turn over classified information to news organizations to hurt the country or provide it to a foreign power. That did not happen here. Donald Trump, you may hate his guts, but he is not a spy. He did not commit espionage. What he did is very similar, in my view, to what Hillary Clinton did. People in the Clinton case took a hammer to a BlackBerry and destroyed it. They wiped clean with bleach bit emails. They said they were all personal, but some of them actually were classified, and it wound up on Anthony Weiner's computer, and not a damn thing happened to her.
That's dissemination.
Senator, first of all, she was fully investigated. They found the investigation found no intentional holding back. Well, fine. Donald Trump was president for 4 years. He had his Justice Department in place for 4 years.
Give me a break.
But setting that.
So he should have prosecuted them, right? That's the argument. So Donald Trump should have prosecuted Hillary. So, okay, fine. The new standard has been set. I hope these people are happy with what they've done here. But the next time a Republican wins, at some point it's going to happen, then they should, and they must, I would argue, prosecute their political opponents, because this is the new game. They're not even going to campaign this season. They're not even going to put Joe Biden around at rallies. I mean, they'll send him some token rallies, but it's not going to be a traditional campaign because this is the campaign. This is the new America. So if Republicans don't play the same game, well, then they're going to continue to lose elections and lose badly. And they may not, have fair elections in the future to begin with once they recodify and federalize elections after that fact. So this is where the line gets drawn in the sand. And I think it's time that, people start to coalesce behind this. This is enough of this. This is a mutually assured destruction tactic. The reasons why, allegedly, the U.S. and the Soviet Union didn't blow themselves into smithereens was because we knew that if we did that, if one of us launched the nuke, it's the end of the whole game.
Aside, there is an audio tape of Donald Trump saying he knows this is secret information. He knows he's sharing it with other people. How is that okay?
I'm not saying it's okay. I'm not saying it's okay to take a hammer to a BlackBerry. I think none of this is okay. When Chris Coons, my good friend will be on in a minute, when we view classified information, we have to sign in, go into a room, and turn it back over. You got vice presidents, secretary of states, and presidents handling this stuff. You had Bill Clinton with tapes in his sock drawer. I would like to review the system, but here's the point I'm trying to make. What's happening in Manhattan to Donald Trump has never happened to anybody in the history of New York. I think the espionage charges are completely wrong, and I think they paint an impression that doesn't exist. This is not espionage. And I do believe, George, that most people on my side of the aisle believe when it comes to Donald Trump, there are no rules, and you can do the exact same thing or something very similar as a Democrat, and nothing happens to you. Here's the bottom line.
Hold on a second, Senator.
The leading candidate for president of the United States on the Republican side is being prosecuted by his opponent.
Yeah.
Had Donald Trump turned over the documents as Mike Pence did, and you heard our legal panel address that as well, we wouldn't be sitting here today. There would be no case. There would be no case at all.
Well, I don't know if that's true. He believes he has the power to do that. He will argue the Presidential Records Act. I don't know if he's right or not.
And there's another point on that. I think that in the indictment, that Jack Smith said that the violation started when he left office, right? So it was around January 21st is when the actual criminality started. So it was the withdrawal of the documents. It was the taking of the documents from the White House on that date is when the crime started. So this idea that he should have just given them back, I don't think that's how it's charged.
There'll be a trial about this, but I cannot stress to you enough that we live in a world today where most Republicans believe that Hunter Biden's laptop was real and people knew it was real, but they told the public something else to help Joe Biden. We live in a world where it takes 4 years to investigate Hunter Biden, and you can go after Donald Trump in about 18 months. I know you don't get what I'm saying, but people on my side believe it, and I think Donald Trump is stronger today politically than he was before. I think the espionage charges are ridiculous. I think what happened to Hillary Clinton, where she got away with it, is very similar to what happened to the President Trump, and we'll have an election and we'll have a trial. But I promise you this, most Americans believe, most Republicans believe, that the law is used as a weapon against Donald Trump.
Well, sir, I've heard that. I've heard your attack on President Biden and his Justice Department. I've heard your attack on Hillary Clinton. I've heard your attack on Bill Clinton. What I've not heard from you is a defense of Donald Trump's behavior and why you think that's the kind of behavior you want to see in the President of the United States.
I'm not justifying his behavior. If it were up to me, nobody would take classified information.
But you're endorsing him for President of the United States. You're saying he should be President of the United States.
Yeah, I think what's happening here.
George, did you vote for Hillary Clinton? With her classified documents problem against Donald Trump would be a great question to ask back.
Here is trying to delegitimize him, is what I'm saying. The game has changed for future presidents. Bill Clinton, under the 2023 standard, would be prosecuted for perjury.
Yeah.
All I can say is we're changed the game.
You did.
You impeached him after he was out of office. Now you're bringing charges in Manhattan that are completely ridiculous. You're accusing the guy of being a spy through espionage.
A spy.
It's not going to change my support for Donald Trump. He's innocent until proven guilty. But what I'm trying to convey to you, and I'm sorry I'm not doing a better job, that most Republicans believe that the law now is a political tool, that Hunter Biden's laptop story, that the people in charge have their thumb on the scale, and that the reason it was not known to be true in October of 2024 before the election is the intelligence community wanted you to believe it was Russian disinformation when it wasn't. This double standard is real in the minds of most Republicans.
Senator, thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you.
I thought he did a great job. I thought Lindsey Graham was great on that one. And so, George Stephanopoulos, he did not like that. And Lindsey Graham, I think, hit back on Clinton, on Biden, on Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton. And he said, well, what about Trump? What about Trump? Well, Trump is, a complex individual. He's got other things that are beneficial. That's why you continue to endorse him. And then Lindsey Graham got it in there. Also, he's not been convicted yet, George. You remember the presumption of innocence in America, or do you want to forget about that? Now, the double standards don't just stop with Hillary. I mean, Joe Biden has documents, allegedly, that were found in multiple locations, not just one spot, multiple locations from when he was a vice president, which has less power threshold than the president, and from when he was the senator from decades ago. But when those were found in his garage, all right, not even in a bathroom, in a garage, what we have is Jill Biden, who doesn't even know what a car is.
When did you first find out about these documents? Were you surprised?
Probably when the rest of America did.
Yeah.
I was really surprised. We had no idea.
No.
And so I think we found out when everybody else did.
You think?
Where in the house were they? Were they in a secure location? Could people have access to them?
Well, I think they were at the Biden Penn Center.
And there were some at your home in Wilmington as well.
Yeah, and I think those were in the garage. And believe me, Arlette, I am not, I haven't even, I don't have time to go through, the boxes in the garage.
I'm so busy.
We had no idea they were even down there.
Yeah, I'm so busy, She was not happy about those questions. She did not want to answer them. She says, tell me about your classified documents. She says, oh, yeah, those classified documents. Those were at the Penn Biden Center, yeah. But what about the ones at your house? She goes, oh, yeah. You know about those documents too? Yeah, I have those too. What about those? And, there's no real follow-ups. So what do you mean? What do you mean you think you found them out when, do you think or do you know? Do you remember? Can you give us some details on that? And you don't even go in the garage? Did you know you have a garage? Did Hunter go in the garage a lot? Was he out there with his friends? Were they playing their video games out there, Jill? Just playing their guitar, talking about music out in the garage? Mm-hmm. And they weren't going through Joe Biden's boxes at all? Right. So she doesn't want to answer it. It's just painful. What a total liar. So don't even go down there. I don't even know what a car is. I mean, 4 wheels and stuff and how to move it. And I think there's inner tubes for the swimming pool are stuck out there, some lawn chairs. I don't even know what's there. That is the double standard as it exists. Now, Hillary Clinton gets away with whatever she wants. Joe Biden and the Jill Biden family, they can have classified documents in their garage. They can take documents back from, decades, and they have less qualifications, less privileges than the president does, but they escape without any consequences because of this double standard that exists. And the double standard is important. Every time they say you're not allowed to ask about it, the question is, do they care about equal protection of the law?